This is Luca Balbo, and I am doing my senior capstone with Professor David Schreff on the media's effect on the gender gap in the coverage of professional sports. So the purpose of my study is to take a further look into how the media is affecting and creating a gap between gender roles in sport. I went further into researching how the media portrays and frames each gender and how that in turn affects athletes' careers. So a couple of the theories that show up in this research are the framing theory, which states how something is presented to an audience will influence the choices they make, and the other was the cultivation theory, which examines the long-term effects the media can have on something or someone. So I first looked into how male athletes are often being reported on their prowess and their athleticism during games, while women are commented on their emotions and portraying them through their roles as girlfriends or wives or even mothers if it applies. People like to use the term graceful to describe a woman's behavior, which is obviously going to be much different than the way a man is described while playing in sports. So the language used to describe a woman can be a little bit degrading. They like to use girl or young lady as their title versus men who are referred to as either man or fella or just by their actual name. So in the last 30 years, the New York Times has been conducting a research, and it shows that nearly 87% of all sport articles focus on men's sports and obviously then male athletes, while 5.2% has been dedicated to women's sports and female athletes. And then when you break down the women, it shows that only 3% of newspaper sports stories are about women's teams, while 5% are about individual female athletes. So you take a whole team, whether it's basketball or soccer or any other team, they're already going to get less coverage, each individual player on the team, and now they're getting the least amount of coverage. So it makes it nearly impossible to gain any sort of attention if you're a teammate on the women's national soccer team or the basketball team. So the lack of coverage in women's sports and for female athletes, it downplays how hard they work and the amount of efforts that goes into their training, which is the same amount, should be assumed to be the same amount as the men. And as recently as the 2016 Olympics, there were examples of sexism on the news headlines. So the Daily Mail was guilty of referring to swimmer Katie Ledecky, who won a bunch of gold medals and beat world records, as the female Michael Phelps, attributing a woman's success to a man. And during another event, women's swimming event, the NBC commentator described the gold medalist as swimming like a man, because that's what happens to women when they excel in their sport in a powerful way. They get described to as a man. As you see in these two posts, the headlines are in favor of a man. So instead of Katie Ledecky being the main photo here, when she won another gold medal and beat another world record, it's Michael Phelps who also won, and his wife. Now Michael Phelps deserves to be up there, but Katie Ledecky should have taken the place of his wife. And then on the other side is another bronze medal winner at the Rio Olympics, and instead of putting up her name and her accolade, which is three-time Olympian Court Cogdell, the Chicago Tribune thought it'd be a better idea to write wife of a Bears lineman wins a bronze medal. I don't think it's relevant who she's married to, and I don't know what it has to do with her winning a bronze medal. So when we discuss progress, perhaps there hasn't been as much progress as people like to think, but the one exception to that is women's tennis, which has progressed a bunch in regards to equal prize money, huge endorsement deals, a huge television ratings, and 4 times a year at the highest level at the Grand Slams, they're guaranteed equal prize money at the Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open. So the Women's Tennis Association has come a long way from when they used to play in an amateur circuit, and it has Billie Jean King to thank for all of that. While the framing theory suggests that these practices of representing genders in the media in a less symmetrical way have become standardized, so women need to be more graceful and glamorous, and they used to be not allowed, or it was not looked at as a good thing to be involved in contact sports. So that's why tennis and golf were one of the earlier female sports, and this makes them a second-rate individual in professional sports and of little importance. So for other women like Anna Kournikova, Maria Sharapova, they represent the icon of white, heterosexual, feminine attractiveness. So Sharapova, who's a 5-time Grand Slam champion and ranked at the top of women's tennis, she's received more coverage about her endorsement deals and the way she looks than her actual accomplishments on the court. And then Kournikova, who was not as successful on the court as Sharapova, only received media attention for her looks. She was happy to take advantage of the many perks of being beautiful and being able to play in professional sport. And in other arenas of sport, the women's national soccer team of the United States filed a federal complaint against U.S. soccer over wage discrimination, because the difference between men and women in tournament prize money in soccer is among the highest in gender pay divide. So in 2014, at the World Cup, the German men's soccer team made $35 million, and the women's U.S. team made $2 million for the same exact sport. And another example of this was in golf. In 2015, at the U.S. Open, the male winner made $1.8 million, and the female winner made $810,000. And in squash, a less familiar sport, the gap exists as well. As you can see here, there's more of a breakdown. So the average NBA player is making $5 million a year, and the average female WNBA player is making $75,000, which is a huge gap. And if you look at all the tennis prize money, it's always equal. At the U.S. Open, it's $3 million. At Wimbledon, it's about $3 million for male and female, and at the French Open, it's about $2 million. So I chose to do my own research. I took people 18 to 33, focusing on the progression of women in professional sport. I wanted the participants to have the opportunity to voice their opinion on this topic, and I wanted participants in this particular age group because they're so exposed to the different mediums that exist in the media. So I took my questions to SurveyMonkey, and then after I did that, I made sure it was completely confidential for my users. I wanted it to remain anonymous, and I was hoping in that way it would make their opinions and their perspectives more honest. And I chose a stratified sampling method to conduct the study. I posted it afterwards to all my social media accounts so I would be able to get people in my age group, and I was hoping it would attract people who would then want to discuss this issue that exists. So some of them discussed the social media impact on men's and women's sports. How is one gender being covered more than the other? Has coverage in professional sports for women changed over time? And has the depiction of women in sports journalism changed over time? Are they still being sexualized, underrepresented, or referred to as objects in sports stories? Should the media be doing more to create an equal platform? Is there a difference in pay, which is an obvious question? And should their earnings be based off of the revenue and popularity of the sport that they participate in? So I took into consideration that this is anonymous throughout. None of the information will be compromised. Participants can quit, X out of the study at any point, and that they will be offered a summary of what they are getting themselves into before the questionnaire begins. I know some people don't watch sports, some people only watch male sports like football, people may only watch tennis, and in that regard think there is no gaps, and whether you're a male or female could create a bias. I'm assuming that the participants are going to have a computer, a tablet, smartphone, or just access to the internet, that they're going to be honest in their responses, that they are aware that a gender gap exists, they are familiar with the Likert scale method of responding, and that they have watched enough sports to have their own opinion on the topic. So it will unfortunately exclude people under the age of 33, people over the age of 33 and people under the age of 18. It's going to be only regarding sports played by both men and women, and the survey is going to be available only on my social media accounts. So if you see the results, people do agree that there is a difference in pay between men and women, which is good. People do also agree and strongly agree that women should be earnings should be based off of the popularity of their sport. People agree that more needs to be done by the media, and almost 20% disagree that more needs to be done. My participants believe that there has been a change in the depiction of women in journalism over time, and the characteristics of women in professional sport competition in stories has changed over time. The results don't always align with what the research has shown. Looking back, I would have probably tried to speak to not more professionals, but more experts on a college level. I would have tried to speak to more athletes, male and female, to see if they feel like there's changes. I would try to get more people to take my survey, and then maybe document how commentators refer to women athletes on my own terms in all sports, not just in tennis. And in conclusion, I think the participants' results differed a little bit from researchers. The change that the participants feel are not happening as significantly as it may seem. Television networks aren't willing to invest the money that it takes to make it an equal platform. Clearly, the gender gap still exists. More progress needs to be made towards an equitable platform. It's just happening so slowly, and hopefully athletes can take advantage of social media in making their own popularity and their own sort of following on the media. And that is what I learned. I hope I am able to be of use to all you listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you learned something today. Thank you.